In the last episode, we cut through the slogans and asked the basic question, what do atheists actually claim? Not what we are told they claim. One of those claims is the universe doesn't need a cause. Stephen Hawking went further, suggesting that the universe could, in some sense, create itself. Does it sound scientific? Although it sounds a bit bold. Does it actually make sense? I'm Riaz Ahmed. In this episode, we are asking a question that goes right to the heart of the debate. Did the universe create itself, or is that where the explanation quietly gives up? We will discuss this topic, which goes under the main topic that I've been trying to present before you. Atheism violates itself, under the light of science, philosophy, and scriptures. And we will examine all these, whether atheism can truly explain the origin of the universe or merely avoids the question, what do the atheist gurus claim? Some famous atheists claim the universe needs no creator. It always existed or arose naturally. The universe can create itself. Let's start with an example from Shakespeare. Shakespeare's famous King Lear, where the King Lear asked his daughters, three of his daughters, to test how much they love the king, so he can distribute his succession towards amongst those three daughters. So two of his daughters, Goneril and Regan, came up with their own flattery statements and tried to persuade their father to inherit his succession. But the last one was very sincere and truthful. Cordelia, she said, nothing. I cannot explain my love. Then King Lear said, nothing can come of nothing. So this is where we start with what Shakespeare said long ago in 16th century. Now let's come to Stephen Hawking. Hawking authored a book with another author, Leonard Mlodinow, where in page 18 he says, the M theory predicts that a great many universes were created out of nothing. Their creation does not require the intervention of some supernatural being or God. Rather, these multiple universes rise naturally from physical law. They are prediction of blah blah blah. So M theory predicts a great many universes were created out of nothing. This was the summary of the whole explanations and whole ideas is. Their creation does not require the intervention of some supernatural being or God. They arise naturally from physical law. Let's see how Stephen Hawking contradicts himself in further clarifications and in further slides that are coming up. If you go back to Bertrand Russell, who is one of the modern atheist pioneers, in his radio debate in 1948 with Frederick Coplestone, Russell clearly and adamantly stated that I should say that the universe is just there and that's all, expressing that the universe's existence may be a brute fact. And a brute fact, as you are aware, does not need an explanation. A fact which by itself is a fact. It does not require any logic, any reasoning. If you go further, we see that This clearly implies that the universe is treated as a brute fact and no creator or deeper explanation required. Explanation must stop somewhere. So all these things literally strikes our thoughts of modern mind. So this is a philosophical position, not a scientific, definitely not, because science, every step, every question, every idea requires a logic, a reasoning, and also a clear evidence. So is the universe a brute fact? So let's come back to Stephen Hawking again. Hawking says in the grand design that we mentioned in the first slide, that because there is a law such as gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. So if I go back to King Lear, what King Lear said to his daughter Cordelia, that nothing can come of nothing. So Stephen Hawking says that the universe can come of nothing. Ridiculous indeed. Now, why Stephen Hawking is wrong? If we go back to Einstein, we see Einstein's static universe theory, which collapsed at the end of the 19th century, at the beginning of 19th century. Now, what is the static universe theory? We will know about that, and why did it fail scientifically? What is its philosophical explanation? We come to know about all these things, then we will know how actually static universe, the collapse of it, causes the collapse of the atheistic idea that the universe can create itself, or the universe was created of nothing. It was proposed first by astronomer Thomas Dix back in 1546. He was alive until 1595. Albert Einstein proposed a temporarily static eternal universe during 1917. In his paper Cosmological Considerations in the General Theory of Relativity. Now, why did a static universe fail? There are three reasons. Gravity causes collapse. Expansion must have a beginning. Anything that expands must have a beginning of it. And the whole universe would have a domino effect, meaning when it starts from a point, it follows the same suit. Now, gravity causes collapse. Gravity always pulls matter together. We know about law of gravity. So gravitational force pulls another object towards themselves, and this is how gravity actually works. And when the gravity works, we know that other things cannot remain static. So the universe was static. If the universe was static, then matter would remain evenly spread. Matter would not remain oddly spread. They will remain evenly spread. But in reality, matter comes into stars and galaxies. Structure forms and evolves. In reality, you can see that. Now, let's come to the example of a very simplistic idea. Like dust particles attracting each other for gravitational forces. And over time, they clump literally, and the system changes. So gravitational force must cause the change. So a gravitational force causes changes, meaning the gravitational force cannot cause the universe to be static anymore. It must be expanding. When it expands, it definitely is agreed that the universe has a beginning. A static universe would require gravity to be turned off. Expansion must have a beginning. Observations show galaxies are moving away from each other, which we call the red shifts. This expanding universe, after his name, the Hubble telescope was given the name after Edwin Hubble's name, as he was the discoverer of the expanding universe idea, universe theory. So he says that observations show that galaxies are moving away from each other. So when he discovered that the galaxies are not static anymore, they are moving away from each other. Space itself is expanding. This now contradicts static or infinite universe theory, which was supported by Einstein, and in one of his statements in his biography or somewhere, he clearly mentioned that was his blunder in his life, one of the major blunder in his life. So now let's give a parable of a balloon. So the dots on a balloon, a dot for example on a balloon, if you see that, when the balloon is inflated, it expands. The dot begins to be bigger and more visible. It's exactly when the universe, the galaxies are being visible and they are literally moving away from each other, clearly suggests that the universe is no more static, no more infinite, is expanding. Once it expands, meaning it had a beginning. Now let's give you another parable of a domino effect. We are aware of domino effect. The domino effect means one change triggers another. When you tap on the first domino, it hits the next one and hits next one. If you have a relay of thousands of dominoes, it hits the last of the dominoes. And this is how the domino effect actually works. So there must have been a first domino that starts the hitting. So this is where it is. So the change spreads and accumulates. The universe shows continuous change. As the static universe goes, if dominoes had existed forever, they would already be fallen. But the universe is mid-process. Stars forming and dying, energy spreading. So now come to the question of the Big Bang discovery. That was the breakthrough in scientific discoveries and scientific innovation, scientific all the presentations towards 21st century, of our century. So the universe is expanding. This is the celestial journey where it began by Big Bang, and it's the one which collapsed the static universe theory and which collapsed literally the infinite universe theory. And thus it tells us clearly that the universe did not begin by itself, and a gravitational force cannot, never ever support a static universe idea, because something which has a gravitational force, it definitely pulls another object, and when it pulls another object, what does it mean? It means that static universe or anything static cannot be static at all. So the universe is expanding. As the universe is expanding, it clearly tells us the universe has had a beginning. Now, why does the Big Bang matter? Because beginning implies causation. So like I said, the causation, one causation cause is the balloon. When the balloon is inflated, the dot in the balloon can clearly be visible, and it spreads more and it becomes bigger. And then we gave you example of dominoes. The first domino hits the next domino, hits the next domino, goes consecutively and hits the last one. This is how the cause and effect is created. So nothing cannot cause something. Time itself has a beginning. Static universe versus Big Bang. So Big Bang is the explosion of literally the expanding universe. The beginning of the expanding universe, and that beginning of the expanding universe gives the rise of the universe to be created by something. So, created by an uncaused cause. As Ibn Sina has put forward this theory of necessary contingency. What is that? Necessary contingency, wajib al-wujud. There is a cause which is being uncaused. So you cannot go back to say that, oh, this is the reason this is existing, because that is existing. If I say I'm holding this pen because my hand is holding the pen, then my hand is being held by the torso or the body, and the body is being held by the chair, and the chair is being held by the floor, and the floor is being held by the foundation of the house, and the foundation is being held by the earth, and the earth is being held by what? Gravitational force. So you go like this on and on, you won't stop actually. But Ibn Sina came up with the idea of emergency or necessary contingency or wajib al-wujud, where he says that there is a cause which is uncaused by any previous cause. The other causes should be caused by that cause, which cause does not need another cause appearing or existing before that. And that is we call God. So if you say when we cannot explain, then we come up with the idea of God of the gaps, then we would ask you a question, why Bertrand Russell? If we go back, we see that Bertrand Russell says that the universe does not need a creator, and that's all. This is completely ridiculous, and it does not scientifically supported, scientifically proven. Then another question comes, is big philosophical question: why is there something rather than nothing? So nothing can create nothing. Nothing can come of nothing. As King Lear said to his daughter, nothing can create of nothing, can come of nothing. So why then is there something that we can see? There is a Big Bang. There was a Big Bang. And from that Big Bang, the universe began, the time began, and it's expanding. This question ultimately comes. There is something rather than nothing. Now what the Quran says, you will be astonished, you'll be surprised knowing that the Quran mentioned about this expanding universe theory ideas 1400 years ago, when even forget about your telescope, forget about your scientific other discoveries, you did not have any idea about stargazing at that time. So people did not have very readily available the telescopes or any stargazing equipment at that time. So the Quran says in verse 47 of chapter 51, وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. We built the universe with great mind, and we are certainly expanding it. Here to tell you, the word musi'un in Arabic means something which is expanding. It's a continuous form of the word wasa'a. Waw, sin, ain. Wasa'a means something that expands, to expand. And from that, musi'un means something which is expanding. It's a continuous form, daima. So this clearly tells us 1400 years ago the Quran mentions about the expanding universe ideas or theories. Now the Big Bang theory in the Quran also mentioned. What is that? It's possible. Quran mentioned 1400 years ago. أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتَقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. Do the disbelievers not realize that the heavens and earth were once one mass? فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا. We split them apart. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. And we created from water every living thing. Hygiene, every single living thing we create from water. That also gives us another idea of scientific discovery these days. Afala yu'minun, will they not then believe? So, chapter 21, verse 30 clearly tells us that all the heavens and earth in Arabic, in the Quranic lexicography, the idea of heaven, samawa, and earth is actually our earth, and the rest of the bodies, celestial bodies in the universe are samawa or heavens. So they were plotted together. So when the Big Bang happened, it exploded and the time began literally, and the expansion happening as Lamusi'un in the previous verse of Surah Al-Jariyah. Allah says that the universe is expanding. Now here Allah clearly says 1400 years ago in chapter 21 verse 30 that the disbelievers not realize that the heavens and the earth were once one mass, then we split them apart and we created them from water. We created every living being from water. This is another thing that gives rise of how life comes into being, into existence. And when something comes into existence, that does not come from nothing. That needs a creator. And this is where the atheistic ideas collapsed. Summarize that being Big Bang collapsed static universe, law of gravity confirms changes, thus requires a cause. The Quran clearly and precisely mentions these 1400 years ago. And then, looking ahead, we will be coming with episode 3, biology versus evolution. Can reason survive evolution? Until then, stay well. Thank you for watching.